Hello, welcome to Liz Rocks and Stuff. I'm Liz, and today I want to talk about what to do when your rocks get bruised. So, you did a lot of work, you tumbled some stuff for many weeks, and then they come out looking like this. What do you do? Well, the short answer is you just start them all over, but I'm going to show you from step one to the end what I did when this batch came out bruised and how they turned out at the end. The first thing I want to talk about is how do rocks get bruised? What causes this? And the short answer is improper tumbling techniques. So in this particular instance, I was experimenting with using foam to see if that helps with the residue that's left behind when you use ivory soap to clean your rocks. And because I was trying to keep two barrels relatively the same, what ended up happening is I didn't have any media or anything cushioning these rocks in the later stages of the tumbling. And because the barrels were not full enough, the rocks ended up just tumbling all over each other. It was too rough and they ended up getting bruised. And that's kind of how it happens, regardless of the reasons why. Rocks get bruised because they don't have enough cushioning. Your barrels are improperly loaded and they're just not tumbling the way that they're supposed to. All right, we're going to start the retumbling journey in stage one. So the first thing I'm going to do is put all of these bruised rocks back into the barrel, and I'm going to make sure that I fill this barrel about 2/3 full. Sometimes I go a little bit more. I'll go as high as 80, which is actually pretty high. That can make the tumbling ineffective, but I'm going to make sure that my tumbler is as full as it should be, which is most people go 2/3 to 75%, I think is generally what people go for, more closer to the 2/3 part. And then I'm going to do a tablespoon of borax, 3 tablespoons of stage 1 grit, and then these are going to tumble for a week. All right, once the rocks have come out of stage 1, they've tumbled for a week. I'm going to treat this batch now for the same way that I would any other batch. So the first thing we're going to do is get all of that grit rinsed off. And then I'm going to do a quick sort and make sure that these rocks have not been chipped or broken. And so for the video footage you're seeing, I had multiple batches of this Rainbow Reboot going. So this batch that I'm sorting is not the batch that's going to get put into stage 3. And this batch that I'm sorting is also not the batch you saw in the previous one. It's all the same set of rocks that were bruised. There were just multiple barrels of them going at once. So that's why you're seeing slightly different mixes of rocks. They're all quartz that were bruised in the same experiment that I did. There was just a lot of it. So after I go through here and get most of this sorted out, and make sure nothing has chipped or broken, just like I would after every stage 1 ever, every stage really. What I do is I end up adding these other rocks in. So these had already gone through a stage 1, and I'm going to go ahead and put them into stage 2, add some more rocks to make sure that this barrel is as full as it needs to be. Then a tablespoon of borax to do a soap cycle on this. Sorry, ivory soap. I use ivory soap for my soap cycles. Some people will use borax. If you use borax, you probably need to tumble them overnight. Ivory soap works a little bit faster. So now that that has gone through a soap cycle, this is just to make sure that all of the stage 1 grit is off and not hiding in any of the little cracks. Then we are going to put this all back into the barrel. And then I'm going to put in a tablespoon of borax and 3 tablespoons of stage 2 grit, and then these are going to tumble for a week. I do all of my stages for a week, and if you want to tumble in stage 1 for longer than a week, you can. I just found that if you're removing bruising, a week was enough for me, but if you have severe bruising or you want to do additional shaping, you can do more than a week in stage 1 before moving on into stage 2. All right, moving into stage 3, the first thing we are going to want to do is take the rocks that have just come out of stage 2, give them a good rinse, and we're going to just treat these the same way we treat every other batch. So the first thing I'm going to do is put these rocks into the barrel. I'm doing a quick inspection like I always do, and then we are going to do an ivory soap bath. The ivory soap bath is just to make sure that all of the grit is removed from the rocks after it's gone through a stage. That's why I do it between every cycle. So this is just a tablespoon of ivory soap. It was pouring down rain when I was recording this, so that's why it's all wet. So after it's tumbled for a few hours and the rain has stopped, we're going to go outside again and rinse all of that ivory soap off of the rocks. You want to get them as clean as possible. Make sure there's no residues or anything left on there. Put everything back into the barrel and borax and stage 3 500 grit pre-polish. After stage 3, it is the final stage before we get to see and hopefully make sure that everything is no longer bruised. So what we're going to do is a quick rinse of the pre-polish, an inspection, make sure, again, nothing has chipped or broken in the previous cycle. This is a pretty tough tumble, so sometimes there can be chips. Once we get everything put back into the barrel, then we're going to do another soap cycle, like we always do. So water, some media because I did not like how full that was, and ivory soap. Now, if you're putting media in past stage 2, you need to make sure that it is media that has been tumbled all the way through stage 4, or at least through the stage that you're putting it in. That way it's not going to be too rough and cause damage to your rocks. So I made sure that the polish or the media I put in here has already been tumbled all the way through stage 4. So it is safe to put in at this stage. So then we're going to do a tablespoon of borax, 3 tablespoons of polish, which is 8,000 grit aluminum oxide, and then another week. The final step before we're going to dry everything off and see how it looks is to burnish it. So burnishing starts with rinsing off as much of that polish as you can, and then we're going to put it all back in the barrel. I do not bother inspecting at this point. It's done. What's done is done. So put everything back into the barrel and a tablespoon of borax and let it go for a few hours. Some people will burnish overnight or for a couple of days, whatever works best for you. I only do a few hours. Once that's done, then we're going to just take it all back outside, rinse it off, and then bring it inside to dry it off. And now it's time for the finale. Time to see if all of that hard work paid off, if everything we did saved these rocks. So what I'm going to do, because this was a rainbow batch, so I had gotten red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple quartz. The green is quartzite, but close enough. And I tumbled them all together. So for my final shots, I thought it'd be really pretty to just arrange them by color in rainbow order. So that's what you're seeing me do here. As a recap, while we're waiting to see what the final results were, how did we fix a bruised batch? Essentially, we just retumbled them from the beginning. The key part is to take it all the way back to stage 1 and do at least a week in stage 1. And you can dry off your rocks after that first stage, see if they're still bruised. And if they are, you can retumble them longer. Some of these probably could have gone a little bit longer in that stage 1 to remove a little bit more bruising, but personally I was happy with how these turned out. So once they get thoroughly sorted, I'm just going to do a quick dry off with a towel. And then if you've not seen any of my other videos, typically what I do is I pick out some particular rocks and I will show them thoroughly dried off, not just sort of toweled off like this. I will dry them thoroughly and show you what their actual final results were. So as you can see, that's a piece of cherry quartz. It wasn't part of the original bruised batch, but everything else I show is. So that is some iron quartz or some fire quartz, the green quartzite, that's an amethyst. And you can see no longer bruised. They look amazing. And then some final close-up shots of it. The blue looks bruised, but that's just the coloration of blue quartz. Everything else turned out amazing. Not all of the bruising is 100% gone, but most of it is gone, and I was very happy with how these turned out. So good luck in your retumbling, and let me know if this video helped you out.